Hey everyone, so welcome back to the channel. We're going to do something a little different today. I don't normally do this kind of thing. We're going to do an unboxing. I have got the new GHL Mitras LX7 lighting, LED lighting. This is going to go over the new freshwater planted build that I'm working on. I'm pretty excited about this. These took quite a while to get here in the States. It takes us a little longer than you guys across the pond, but they're here and working on the build. I've actually I've got 3 of these. This is the third one to unbox. I've got a couple others that I checked out already, and they're hanging over the stand, which I'll show you guys later. But before we get into this, there is one thing I kind of wanted to go over that can be a little confusing when you're shopping for your Mitras on the GHL website or in stores, and that is the naming designation for the different models. When you're looking at LED lighting, whether it's for reef or freshwater or what have you, there's kind of a few different formats that the different companies have used. Either have individual LEDs or clusters. It was a Radeon G4s. They used 2 circular large clusters. And GHL chose to go with several smaller clusters. There's 6 of them in the original lights, and then now they have a version that's 4, and that's what these are. So anyway, these cluster units are called Mitras, and the LX7 is the latest model. They originally came out with the LX6, and now these here are the LX7. But beyond that, there's several different models. So this is kind of the umbrella overarching name, and I went ahead and drew up a little diagram here I think will help. So this is the overarching umbrella name, LX7. Then they've got 2 versions of that. We've got your reef lighting and we've got the freshwater lighting. And they designate that by the 2nd digit. So the 7 is for LX7, current model. When you see a 2, that's for reef. You see a 0, that's freshwater. Then beyond that, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, there's 2 different versions of each light. We've got the 6 clusters and we've got the 4 clusters. So for reef, if it's a 4 cluster light, the model number, the model name is going to be 7204, and their 6 cluster model is going to be 7206. And then same for freshwater, it's going to be 7004. And the 6 cluster is going to be 7006. For whatever reason, the 3rd digit is always a 0. So, and then beyond that, you've got choices for each one of these, white or black. So you've got your choice of color. So you're talking about 2 different colors for this, 2 different colors for this. We got 2, 4, 6, 8. We got 8 different variations of this light, which is kind of cool. So we've got some choices. But anyway, I hope that kind of helps clear things up a little bit. The 2 is reef, the 0 is freshwater. And then beyond that, you're just choosing whether you're getting 4 clusters or 6 clusters. And you make that choice based on, how you want to spread the light out across your tank, whether you, maybe it's not too deep front to back, so you're okay with 4 clusters, or it's just personal preference there. And it's kind of the new trend to have 4 clusters. I think everybody started out with the more rectangular lights, and then they started offering these kind of more square shaped lights with less clusters or less LEDs overall. Good for nanos and just different configurations over your tank. So anyway, let us get into the unboxing. So this is how it shows up. This is kind of typical packaging for GHL. They've got this sleeve with a more generic box underneath. Put that away. And I've got the seal here, manufacturer seal. Cut that open. So what GHL tends to do is use a fairly generic box, nothing custom plastic forms or none of that. So that's fine with me, saves money. Everything is still packed well and protected. Peanuts. And I've got a bubble wrap. So this is the light itself here. Well sealed. Let's open this up. Okay. So light and cord. Let's put that aside for a second. And this is the large LED driver. And actually, this is one little thing I wanted to point out. Is kind of nice. I haven't seen this before. I mean, I've seen these type of connections. You've got these two ends. They squeeze together, and then you can, tighten the collar. What's interesting though is they have this cool little cap, little protective cap. That was kind of nice. It's tethered. Kind of cool. Just a little extra feature there. And then we've got the power cord, US version, and USB cable. This can be used for the initial setup. And just some quick start basic instructions. And catalog. Full instructions are a downloadable PDF from their website, aquariumcomputer.com. So, and that appears to be it. Let's get this out of the way. Packing peanuts. So, put these cords to the side. Let's look at the light. One thing I've always liked about GHL in general is their build quality and materials. I mean, this is right here, a great example. Everything's metal. Some clear plastics. It's for aesthetic. But the main body and everything here is metal. There's glass. You can see this is the 4-cluster version. And but yeah, just overall, everything, and we got 2 fans on this, everything they do is just really second to none when it comes to build quality and reliability. I've used their controller for years. I'd say probably like 6 years now. I don't trust my tanks to any other controller. They're not always the easiest thing to set up, but once you're connected and running, it's pretty much set and forget. You just don't have any issues. It's, I don't know. It's their firmware, software, everything is just so strong and robust and generally bug-free that you just don't have the problems you see with some of the other companies out there, which is nice. And they're not always the first to market with the latest trends and features, but that's okay. They get there eventually. Nothing seems to be released without a ton of testing until it's really ready to hit the market. And that's the way it should be. So if you look at the LEDs, they've got 4 clusters. And one important thing to note is that these clusters are actually interchangeable. Let's say you're running Mitras over a reef, and like me, you decide, well, let me try something new. I'm going to try some Freshwater Planet. You don't have to go out and buy a whole new light. You can actually just swap out the clusters, which is really cool. And they do say that you can do a cluster swap to keep up with the ever-changing technology. They have the old LX6 lights and the new LX7 lights. The clusters aren't interchangeable. So I don't know, take that with a grain of salt. I don't know how far you can go as far as upgrading is concerned. I'm sure if it's, little minor things, that's no problem. But, if they decide one day to come out with an LX8, I wouldn't expect the clusters to be interchangeable. But who knows? That could change. So we've got 9 channels in each cluster. Each one can be adjusted individually. Those 9 channels are a couple of blues. There's a royal blue and just a regular blue. There's several whites. Remember, this is the freshwater version. So we've got a warm white, a cool white, what they call sky white, and a blue white. Then on top of that, we've got green, red, and yellow. So 9 channels altogether. And one kind of neat feature within the software, when you get into programming and turning features on and off, that kind of thing, is an overdrive, which is really cool. So this actually came in handy on the reef. I felt like I wanted a little more blue or a little more UV, and I was able to take power away from some of the other channels that I wasn't running them at 100% anyway. So I was able to take some power away, and some of those channels that I already had at 100% that I felt wasn't enough, I was able to then overdrive those. So say, run those at 110%, 120, whatever I was doing with it at the time. So that's just kind of neat. Something else that's pretty cool is this has an overheat protection. So if the onboard sensors sense that this is starting to run too hot, it'll adjust fan speed, and it will also automatically dim the lighting if it needs to. Just it's reducing power and just until it cools off, and then it'll automatically come back up. So I thought that was kind of cool. And something else to note is that they really tried to reduce or completely remove the disco effect. Seeing little spots of light in your tank. So you've got these painted reflectors that do kind of try to mimic the parabolic metal halide reflectors. So the individual LEDs are are just kind of blended together. Now, one thing that this 4-cluster light does not have, that the 6 does, is that right on the front panel on the 6 cluster is a LCD screen and some buttons. So when this was hanging above the tank, there was no need to go into the app or the ProFlux controller if you're using that, or onto the website or into your PC to make some minor adjustments. You could just walk up to the light and right in front of you, just do it right here. So, I didn't use this too often, but what I did use it for over the reef was when I take pictures. We know that the high amount of blue can really mess with your camera and the white balance. So I had a custom setting stored that was, around 12,000 K. So a very, kind of neutral white light that I felt was good for taking photos with. And so I was able to just walk up to the tank, hit a button or two, and boom, it would change the lighting for me. And then when I was done taking photos, another button or two, and boom, it was back to the regular schedule. So that was kind of nice. And I asked GHL, I said, why did you decide to remove it from these 4 clusters? And their answer was that it was to save some space and to save some money. So I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. It's kind of one of those things where it's not really a big deal. I didn't use it often, and that one reason that I did use it doesn't really apply to freshwater anyway. So if it was on this, I probably wouldn't really use it much anyway. If this was the reef version, I'd probably miss it a little more for that one reason. So, but anyway, just something to note, because I didn't find that clear on the website when I was looking. So, if that's a major factor for you, you might want to think about going with the 6 cluster versus the 4. Other than that, that was really the only main thing that I kind of noticed that was different about this unit. And anyway, so there's really not that much else to say about this. This is really just supposed to be an unboxing. We did that. We unboxed it. So really the next thing to do is to hang this sucker and then get it connected to my network and programmed. And that is one other thing that I really liked about the Mitras over some of the other lights out there, is that this has the built-in Wi-Fi module, which is super nice. There's no reason to use any kind of bridge or link or anything like that. So that's very cool. So that concludes this unboxing. Thanks for checking it out. Sorry if I rambled a bit. If you liked what you saw and heard, please hit the like button and subscribe. Hopefully we can do more of these in the future. And I will see you guys later. Thanks a bunch.